Call of Duty has a million different guns throughout its 24 different games. Some are memorable for being great and others for being horrible, but some guns are memorable for having incredible fire rates. Or should I say, incredibly slow fire rates, because today we're going to be looking at the top 10 slowest firing guns in Call of Duty history. And to make it interesting, we're only going to be looking at fully automatic guns, or else this list would be snipers and shotguns only. I'm also not including fully automatic shotguns, because I think you're more curious about the SMGs, ARs, and LMGs. Let's jump into the list. 10th, the Fang 82 from Black Ops 6, firing at 461 rounds per minute. I had never used this weapon until I picked it up on Verdansk a week ago and wiped a whole team of 4. Then when I researched for this video, I found out it fired just slow enough to make it onto the list and used it in multiplayer for the first time. It didn't feel quite as good there, but was still solid. The biggest issue it has is the pre-fire delay, which really becomes an issue if you add the slower ADS and sprint to fire speed. Basically, you need to play slow with it. All I'm saying is camping is the way for this weapon to work. But the funniest part about this LMG is that it has a 30 round base mag, which is the smallest base mag for a light machine gun in Call of Duty history. The combination of stats on this weapon just make no sense to me, and I think it would be great if you removed the pre-fire delay and basically made it an assault rifle, which is what it's already trying to be. 9th, the Tanto 22 from Black Ops 6 in COD World War II ASV 36, firing at 441 rounds per minute. First up, the Tanto from Black Ops 6, the SMG that frustrated all players who tried to grind headshots through hardcore for camos. Because we all know that's what most players want to do, but that takes away from the strength of this SMG, the damage of course. The Tanto is just a skill gap SMG, and there's almost no skill gap on hardcore, which is why it performed much better in core gameplay. Taking less shots to kill is what makes it competitive, and hardcore is where that's useless because everything is pretty much a one-shot kill there. The recoil isn't great, but the slow fire rate makes it much easier to control, and overall I find it enjoyable to use, but you will get slapped in the face by the Jackal PDW up close. But that's most weapons. Now on to the ASV 36 from COD World War II. But the first thing I want to say is that you will be seeing many more weapons from COD World War II, and I know for a fact that this game has the slowest average fire rate on its guns of any Call of Duty, which does make sense with it being set in World War II. So while it shoots slow, it really isn't that slow for the game it's in. Overall, I found it to be a super mid-tier weapon, but some of the player base liked it. It was an assault rifle, and this game had rapid fire, which would elevate it right off this list at 472 rounds per minute. Yeah, that 31 round per minute increase actually would put it out of the top 10. That's just how many slow firing weapons there are. And you know what weapon would be added? The Black Ops 2 FAL. I already know what you're thinking. Aren't they supposed to be fully automatic? Yes, they are. BO2 had select fire to make the semi-automatic gun fully automatic, which is a perfect segue into 8th, the SMR from Black Ops 2, firing at 416 rounds per minute with the full auto select fire. This was most likely your least favorite assault rifle in Black Ops 2, and while the full auto mode did make it a bit better, it was still inferior to the other weapons in the game. Its main issue was it being the same exact weapon as the FAL, but worse. It had a slower fire rate and more recoil, so even though it took the same shots to kill, there was no advantage to use it. But that's the beautiful thing about Black Ops 2, is you would use any gun just to have fun, and it didn't matter if it was amazing or not. Although I will say, personally, I like to use the SWAT 556 as the bad AR that I liked from BO2. If you're enjoying the video and reminiscing on these slow firing guns, please hit the like button so I know if you want me to keep making more of these videos. 7th, the Odin from Modern Warfare 2019, firing at 413 rounds per minute. It was well known for being a higher skill gap weapon because of how much damage it did per shot, that made it a 2-shot kill to the upper chest. But if you missed a shot, you were getting taken out by most of the other assault rifles like the Kilo and Grau. But what made the Odin really cool was the 60% damage bonus for a headshot paired with the stopping power field upgrade that actually made it possible to get a one-shot kill. But for me, it never worked that well, so I guess I just wasn't the right player for it. Probably because I like to move around rather than stay in one place, where I can line up the perfect shot. But it could be incredibly good for anyone who consistently hit the headshot while on the move. So if that was you, congratulations on being really good at Call of Duty. And somehow, 84% of you watching still aren't subscribed. and if just 1% more of you sub, we'd be at 100k, which would mean a lot to me. So please hit that button, it's free. I appreciate you a lot, boss. 6th, the NC-41 from COD World War II and the bar from COD Vanguard firing at 400 rounds per minute. 2 more weapons from games set in the World War II era. I'm so shocked. Oh my god, who would have thought? Let's start with the NZ-41. It was also added after launch around Halloween, and it wasn't a great assault rifle, but for some reason, I always really liked it. Probably because the iron sights were clean and the recoil was low, which is a pairing that Call of Duty players love. But the NC-41 that players would remember better is the one from Vanguard that shot much faster and was way better, which is a perfect way to switch over to the bar from Vanguard that also shot the 400 rounds per minute. And this is arguably the best weapon on the whole list. There's multiple reasons for this, but the biggest one is that it somehow was very forgiving for being a slow firing weapon, which isn't something that naturally pairs together. And that was because it didn't matter if you shot the enemy in the torso or the limbs, it wouldn't affect your shots to kill. It also had 0 horizontal recoil, making it really easy to hit your shots, especially for a high damage weapon. But since it's Vanguard, there was a bunch of different ammo types that affected the damage, recoil, and fire rate. And somehow, the bar actually became its best when you used the BMG ammo, which made the fire rate even slower at 363 rounds per minute. The reason that was helpful was because the damage increased to make it always a 2-shot kill and gave the bar even less recoil. Honestly, a really interesting choice to give it less recoil with the more damage. I don't really get it, but that also made it great in Warzone for a while, and I use it all the time. All of this talk about the bar makes me still want to talk about it, or at least another variant of it, because 5th, the bar from World at War, and MW3 2023 with the Sidewinder firing at 375 rounds per minute. And yes, this is the only gun to have a repeat performance on the list. But while the bar was good in Vanguard, it wasn't very good in World at War. Even though I liked it, and I'm sure plenty of you liked it as well and see it with some nostalgia, there is no denying that it had some of the worst recoil in Call of Duty history. Mainly because the recoil was random, not because it kicked up the most. And to make a funny comparison, it's almost like Fortnite where the bullets just go in random places unless you tap fire it. But this one didn't have the excuse of being in third person. And the only way to make it usable, you had to throw on stopping power, which made it a 2-shot kill, or you could use double tap if you just wanted to give it a respectable fire rate of 500 rounds per minute. But personally, I would never recommend that because the recoil got even worse with double tap. But hey, we used every weapon back then and didn't watch the best class setup videos to sweat all the time and just played for the love of the game. So we'd do funny things like throwing double tap onto that bar and miss half our shots just to laugh about it. And that's something that wouldn't work as well with the Modern Warfare 3 Sidewinder. I straight up only ever used this weapon to unlock the mastery camo and to get footage for this video because it was quite bad. But hey, it's the only battle rifle to make it onto this list, and that's an accomplishment. All I will say is that the Sidewinder didn't seem quite as bad to me when I just used it again 2 days ago, and maybe I was too harsh on it, or they buffed it, or I made a better class, or the skill-based matchmaking is way lower now, which is probably the right answer. Let me know which fully automatic weapon that shot really slow was your favorite of all time. 4th, the VMK 750 from Black Ops 4 firing at 361 rounds per minute. This weapon is exactly what you think a slow firing LMG should be. Hits like a tank and never had its damage fall off. The VMK always hit for 54 damage, making it a 3-shot kill across all ranges, which was very good in BO4 because every weapon took more shots to kill with the 150 base health. There were a couple of attachments that you could add onto it to increase the damage of headshots that could make it potentially 2-shot kill, but it was pretty inconsistent with that setup, which made the VMK not very popular, but it wasn't bad at all because it also had fairly good handling stats for a light machine gun in Black Ops 4, but most people just prefer to use the Titan or Hades if they wanted to use an LMG in the game. 3rd, the Gorgon from Black Ops 3 firing at 327 rounds per minute. We're getting really slow now. This one was made for the players who didn't want to use the advanced movement in Black Ops 3 because it was impossible to use this one jumping around with its not only slow fire rate, but also terribly slow handling. But yet, even with all of that working against it, it was really good, because it pretty much two-shot everywhere. If you were camping on a head glitch and saw someone across the map, you could two-shot them easily. Even a lot of pro players wanted it banned in competitive, and many people thought it was an overpowered weapon because of how great it was for defending an objective, but its only strong suit was really its damage. So if you were accurate and precise, it was overpowered. But if you missed 2 shots, it was really bad. All you had to do was avoid close quarters combat and camp to make it good. Your favorite kind of player. And if you couldn't tell, yeah, that was sarcasm. Second, the Stinger from COD World War II firing at 313 rounds per minute. Hopefully you aren't shocked to see another LMG and another weapon from COD World War II. The 2 most common things in this video. And if you don't remember this one, it's because it was a DLC weapon added a number of months into the game, and it had an 80 round mag, which meant you got to avoid ever reloading it, which is a nice thing to avoid when you're using an LMG. This reminded me of a bad version of the Gorgon we just talked about, but hey, if you threw on rapid fire, it would fire 6 rounds per minute faster than the Gorgon, so take that. The Stinger's showing some pride. And quickly, with a couple honorable mentions that just missed the list. The FAL from Black Ops 2 with Select Fire and the DP-28 from World at War that were the 2 closest to making the list at 468 and 469 rounds per minute, 2 legendary weapons. Then the Oni pistol from Infinite Warfare that has a listed fire rate of 61 rounds per minute, but it accelerates over time to be way faster than anything on this list, so I wasn't really sure what to do with it, so here it is in the honorable mentions. Next up, the FG-42 from COD World War II, where its listed fire rate is very inconsistent. I've seen the fire rate be listed at 517 rounds per minute the most, but on the COD wiki it shows 422 rounds per minute, but since most places have it listed at 517 rounds per minute, I have it here as an honorable mention. And lastly, the Owen gun from COD Vanguard firing at 500 rounds per minute. I had to mention this one because it's the 2nd slowest firing SMG in COD history, only behind the Tanto from Black Ops 6 earlier in the video. And do you have any guesses for the slowest firing gun in COD history? First, the Bren from COD World War II firing at 300 rounds per minute. So it appears the Call of Duty developers set the limit for fully automatic guns to have a fire rate of at least 300 rounds per minute. Also, the Bren has been in every World War II themed Call of Duty and was designed to be historically accurate, but that meant those iron sights sucked. The entire mag just blocked the right side of your screen, but the rapid fire saved this gun by making it 319 rounds per minute to make it faster than the Stinger. And yes, I was being sarcastic, it still sucked. I think this was the worst Bren made in COD, even though it was still a 2-shot kill. I think most of the newer players would remember the Bren from Vanguard or Warzone, where it was meta by having no recoil and a much faster fire rate. And with that, COD World War II LMGs reign supreme as the slowest firing weapons in COD history, and if you want to see the ugliest iron sights to ever grace your screen from Call of Duty, click here. I know you'll barf with a smile. Peace.